Welcome to Harness the Shift, the podcast where I spotlight souls shaping a new humanity. I am Jay, a neurosomatic strategist bringing lived experience and practical insight to help listeners see new perspectives and navigate their own paths. I interview leaders, entrepreneurs, and co-creators and change makers, those who have stepped into their healing journeys and are sharing their experiences and perspectives to inspire others on their path of self-discovery and transformation. During these conversations, my guests share how you can connect with them, and all their details are in the podcast description. Now let's take a moment to meet our guests for today. Hello, you beautiful souls. This is Jay, and welcome to today's episode of Harness the Shift with fellow veteran, athlete, and author Rita Honeycutt. From facing life-threatening heart challenges to competing in ultramarathons, Rita's journey is a powerful story of resilience, determination, and transformation. She now dedicates her life to helping veterans navigate their benefits, supporting mental health, and creating accessible athletic opportunities for all. Get ready to be inspired by her courage, her discipline, and her unwavering commitment to showing up for herself no matter the obstacles. Hello, you beautiful souls. How are you today? The mission of Harness the Shift is to hold space for real journeys and lived wisdom, sharing the tools, practices, and perspectives that have guided each of us while honoring that every path is personal and self-realization unfolds in its own way. Help me welcome our guest today, Rita Honeycutt. Hey, Rita, thank you for joining us here on Harness the Shift.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here today.
I am so honored to have you on as a fellow veteran. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're currently creating in your life.
So my name is Rita. I am an Air Force veteran, and my full-time job is a veteran service officer. But in my spare time, I am helping a friend of mine develop and lead a local ADA athletic program, and also supporting peer support and mental health with that program. It has been a very personal journey for me as somebody who has struggled with mental health and physical health issues. Having this person in my life has kind of changed everything because she has catered to my needs of mobility challenges. But she's also just been so supportive of the mental journal that it comes with all of these different changes as I've been developing. And so because of the partnership that her and I have, we have actually started the second ever ADA athletic program in North Carolina.
Wow, that is amazing. So tell me a little bit more about your journey. I know that we've talked offline, and you shared with me that you faced heart disease and asthma and a back injury. What was the moment you realized you needed to take control of your health?
It was kind of a multi moment. So the first initial moment was after I had come through heart surgery number 4, and I had hurt my back actually being laid up and trying to heal from heart surgery. And I couldn't even get dressed on my own because I was in so much pain. Like, my daughter and my husband had to help me, like, put on my pants, put on my shoes, all of these daily things that should not be difficult for a 35-year-old to do. And so at that point, I was like, I need to talk to somebody, and I need somebody to get me on the right path. And it was hard at first. You know, as a woman, you go to the doctor and you're like, this is going on. And they're like, oh, it's hormones. And I'm like, it's not hormones. Like, I'm in pain. I finally got in with a really good doctor, and he was like, let's try this. It's kind of experimental. Either you will get better or you won't, but at least we're going to try. And that moment when I finally had just a little bit of pain relief was the moment that I was like, let's do everything. And I went from barely able to move to just walking. And within months, everything changed.
That's amazing. And so can you share with us what specifically what modality they used?
Yeah, so it's kind of crazy when we think about migraines, right? We think about, oh, you get a headache, a migraine.
Hmm.
I did not realize that migraines are kind of full body. And depending on the person, autoimmune diseases, all of these different things, he actually was like, let's try this low grade seizure medication that we've seen some, awesome results in neurological and migraine patients with. And it was night and day. I went from daily migraines and full body neuropathy to like no pain in 6 weeks. And I was like, this is the best thing. And the nice thing is it's not an opioid, it's not a painkiller, like it's not a heavy duty drug. And that was what I was looking for. I did not want to be doped up and not able to like function. He was the first doctor that was like, "No, let's not dope you up." Like, I was not looking for a drug to, like, survive on, I was looking for something to make me feel better, and, he put me on that, and the shift has been insane, to go from, just having that constant pins and needles shooting down my legs, shooting up and down my arms. It was huge, and especially with the herniated disc, like, it's pushing on everything, so it's causing that. So just being able to be mobile in the first place and then get those muscles right, get the back right, like that was step one in a very long journey. But it has been great because now the muscles are so strong in my back. The doctor I followed up with was like, we don't need to look at any kind of surgery. Like your muscles are keeping that disc from shifting at all anymore. And I'm like, that was the goal.
It was the goal. Well, I'm so happy that you have gotten some relief. That's amazing. And so you also shared with me, now that you got that relief, you started running. So, how did you go from injury to putting on sneakers and hitting the pavement?
Yeah. So it was funny when I started working out with Katie. So Katie owns a little gym here in Archdale, and I was driving down the road one day and I saw these women outside working out. I was like, "Oh, it looks like they're doing yoga. Let me stop by and check it out." And so I talked to her and she's like, "Well, the first class is free. Come join us." And I'm like, "I'll do great." It was a bunch of old women, right? So I'm like, "Oh, I'm young. I'll do amazing." And the first class was awful. She totally kicked my butt. I did not keep up with those old ladies. I went outside, threw up in the grass, and called my husband to come get me. And he goes, "So you're going back on Wednesday?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm going back on Wednesday." And so I developed this relationship with her. And she was like, "Well, I was thinking about doing this veteran support run in Charlotte. What do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be really cool, but I'm not really ready to run yet." And so I signed up for my first 5K. Well, once you pay for it, like you have to go, right?
Yeah, you've committed, you're all in.
And so it was just a process of like I just started with walking because it was like, well, I always wanted to do one, that wasn't in the military.
Yeah.
And so we went to the 5K and, I walked it in less than an hour, which was crazy because just months prior, I was walking a 5K and it took me almost an hour and a half. So I had already cut off over 30 minutes of my time just walking. And then once I realized I could do it, it just kept going. And now, I mean, I can do a 5K in 30 minutes, which I'm literally doing it in a third of the time. So it started to become like, we joke, we don't want to give all the kids the participation trophies, but if you want a participation trophy as an adult, go be a runner because every time you cross the finish line, they give you a medal and a free banana.
That's awesome.
And so I started chasing this medal collection because I'm like, oh, that one's pretty. And I kind of want that one. And so now I've got a wall full of these things because I'm like, but it was motivating because you're like, well, I got something out of it. Right. And so I just kept going. And every time it was like, well, let's see. I've done a couple 5Ks. Can I do a 10K? Can I do a half? Can I do a marathon? And then this January, I completed my first ultra, which is 31 miles. So it was like, 3 years ago, I was barely walking 3 miles, so to be able to run 31, it's life-changing, and it's something that even though I might not place in these races, I always say that I'm there to compete or complete, not compete, and so I'm just completing these things for myself.
Yes, and I think that's what's so important. It's not about competition. It's about you and
Mhm.
your growth.
And that's amazing. So talk to me about, how did your mental and emotional state shape your physical and spiritual healing?
Mental was very hard, like very hard at first.
Mhm.
When you're in pain all the time, it's this vicious cycle of like you're in pain, so you're depressed, and then you're depressed, and sometimes it can manifest as more pain. So you're in this vicious cycle. And so it was very hard at first. We talk about being motivated, and to me, it wasn't about being motivated because at first, everybody wants to start working out in the beginning of the year because it's new year, new me. I want to be ready for the summer, but that usually like falls off at some point. But discipline really, it was the thing I needed. And once I became disciplined, like I noticed everything else in my life started to fall together because I knew I had to get my butt up at 4:30. I had to be at the gym by 5. And as long as I worked out, I felt better physically and mentally. Like it got to the point where my coworkers would be like, "You didn't work out this morning, did you?" And I'd be like, "Am I that cranky?" But it changed everything. And once once you physically start to feel better, you mentally start. It's they're so connected, and the two of them together were so crucial. And then, like I said, everything else started to fall into place for me. Like I felt calmer. I was able to start meditating, and it's crazy because people ask me like what my form of meditation is, and I'm like, well, it's actually running, because running meditation is a real thing. And when you explain to somebody, I'm like, that's my restful place, because all I'm worried about is putting one foot in front of the other, and it becomes this very just soothing rhythm. You're concentrating on your breathing, you're concentrating on where you're putting your feet each step. And so for me, like, that is my balance time. It's the one time in my life where I'm not getting asked, where mom, where is it? Or honey, where did you put my keys? Or, with my job, my veterans asking me what their status is on their claim. Like, it's the one time nobody can ask me anything because the phone can't ring.
Yeah, it's like your own me time.
Yes. And it's been great because I can like listen to my music, I listen to my podcast, and like I love to run in the woods because it's so soothing. I love being out in nature, fresh air, like, and it's crazy because I talk to people that are like, I hate running in the woods because you're having to concentrate on every rock and root and this. And I'm like, I love it because that's what I'm concentrating is every rock and root and every little piece of nature that I go past.
Yeah, in the presence, right? Being in the presence. I used to run back in the day, like in my 20s and my 30s and a little bit of my 40s. Yeah, I've suffered a little bit with chronic pain too. I have a cervical injury from a I was rear-ended when I was in the Air Force. I was at a stoplight and I was rear-ended. And so I absolutely have the utmost compassion for that because it is so painful. Chronic pain is not fun. And the very fact that you are able to do what you enjoy, and that's your form of connection to the spirit, I think that is so amazing. It's important to take that time for your
Everything we're made of contains light. From the sun that feeds our world to the energy that flows within us. With LifeWave X39, we've found a way to put that light to work. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality. By gently stimulating the skin with light, our non-invasive, non-transdermal X39 patches help you conquer your active lifestyle and pave a new way to vibrant health. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. It all starts with your body and a little help from light. Place one LifeWave X39 patch on the body. Apply the patch to clean, dry skin in the morning. Patches may be worn for up to 12 hours before discarding. Keep well hydrated while using this product. Harness your natural potential. Reclaim youthful energy. Live long, live well, live young with LifeWave X39. Be the light. LifeWave.
Amazing. It's important to take that time for yourself. And with the whole nature thing too, because I loved running. There was a park across from where I used to live when I lived in Ohio, in Oregon, Ohio. There's just something about running in the trees and being connected to nature. I think it's soothing, and you just feel like it's just peaceful, right? One thing that I loved was running in the rain. I loved to run in the rain. I felt that it was like cleansing in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I enjoyed that. So I'm so glad that you have found something that you're so passionate about. Let me ask you this. Were there moments along the way that you wanted to give up? And if so, what kept you going?
Yeah, like every day.
Yeah, right.
Some days
Girl,
I'm
I hear
like,
you.
why am I doing this? Like, why am I driving myself crazy? And I mean, there have been times, there was one of my marathons, I messaged my husband. I'm like in the middle of the woods. I'm all alone. There's nobody out there. And I'm like, honey, why do I do this to myself? And he was like, because you just like kicking ass. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to run 5 more miles.
Yeah.
But I mean, there have definitely been those moments where I'm like, why did I pick this thing? And part of it, at first, it was I wanted to lose weight. I needed to lose weight to be healthy.
Yeah.
But then it became like almost like addictive. Like I have to do the next thing. I have to challenge myself more. Like a constant reminder to myself, like, look at how far you come. Do you really want to backtrack now? And like this week, it's kind of been killing me because I had surgery last week on my foot and I'm like, I can't run. So I'm out there on the exercise bike because I'm like, I have to keep moving.
Yeah.
It's been easier to keep moving than it has been to not. It's gotten to the point where I've noticed, like my coworkers have said, like, did you not work out this morning? Because I feel just this negative shift of like, I just feel moody. Like my husband will call me a crankopotamus, and I
Mm.
am. And so it's easier to just keep going at this point and to be healthy. And I think it's been like the whole health journey for me because when I started exercising, I had no choice, right, but to eat better. And so I'm not putting junk in my body anymore, so I don't feel like junk. And then I'm doing these healthy things. Like at first, there were days where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. But they started to become farther and fewer between because I started to see the difference. And that was one of the things where I had to work through the scale. The scale is the enemy because you see small drops and you're like, all right, I'm doing good. And then you see the plateaus and you're like, why am I not doing enough anymore? And I had to like really focus on how my clothes fit. And I started taking progression pictures so I could see the shift and even just like taping myself because the scale went down, but it wasn't going down, of course, fast enough.
Right.
And then it was also, I would have those days where I started gaining again, but my pants were getting looser and I'm like, what is going on? And we know, right? Logically, we know that muscle weighs more than fat. However,
Absolutely.
it's a challenge to get through those things. So
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. I have a very supportive husband. I have a very supportive personal trainer. For the most part, my teenage daughter's kind of supportive, but they've all kind of really helped me get through working through. And it's important. I've learned it's important to have a community. Like I felt so alone when I started this, and I don't feel like that anymore. There are days too where I'm almost like craving the loneliness, right? I'm like, man, I wish I could just work out by myself today.
Yeah.
But that community has been amazing. And then sharing my journey, I think has been like really the thing that's really pushed it because that it lets other people know you're not alone. And yes, this journey is hard, but like I got you. And that's why I've been so like pushing my social media presence only because I want people to know like you don't have to deal with this by yourself, especially with my background in mental health. Like I know it's so hard when you're in a room full of people and you feel like you're the only one there. And that's why I'm like, if I reach just one person, like that's all that matters.
Absolutely. It's a journey, right? It's a journey that the health, getting better, right? Like taking control of your health, losing weight. It is not an easy task. Definitely, you have to have support in that time. So I'm so glad that you do have that support. So you mentioned ADA athletics and how important that is to you. So how has that shaped your story? Um, this is such an amazing story of triumph, right? And so how does that shape your story and how does that fit into the whole grand scheme of things?
Yeah. So one of the things I realized very early on is there's like this huge divide, right? You have your like people that they look at as like your Paralympics, your eight, like truly ADA. And they're basically like, if you're not working with a physical therapist and you're wheelchair bound, like you're in this category or you should be able to work out on your own, right? And that's not the case. There's this like gap in the middle of people who have back injuries, but might only need like a cane or a walker or and they might not need any kind of assisted device, but they still need that support. And it was nice to work with a trainer who was like, well, this is level one. Let's start here. We're going to get you to level three. And so it was just a matter of like, when I first started, there was no way I was doing a full sit up. And she's like, well, let's try a Bosu ball sit up and see how you do on that. And so each time they got better and they got easier. But the thing is like that kind of workout isn't out there really for the public. And then when you go and you start doing events, we went and did something that's called a DECA, and it's done by Spartan. It's 10 exercises and a run. And the very first one we did, we had to do the hardest one first, of course. So it's 10 exercises and a 3-mile run. And when I saw this woman out there in a wheelchair and she like totally just crushed it. And it was nice to see that there were accommodations being made that like should be there,
Hmm.
but it was also nice to know, like, I feel like in the running community, especially, they're so humble and they're so supportive. We ran when we did the ultra, there was a gentleman out there who was some kind of national runner. And, it's a big deal that he's there, but he was just like such a normal guy. And it was nice for him to be like, hey, you're doing a good job. And I know that I'm slow. I'm okay with this, but it was nice to see the support from the whole community and that they want everybody involved. Like he might be one of the fastest people alive, but he still wants everybody involved in the running world. And if you can't run, what can we do to modify it so you can be involved in that world? And that was the big part of ADA athletics was opening up to everybody because like when you see the Special Olympics, there's all of these categories, but they're not really talking about people with heart disease or
Mhm.
asthma or autoimmune disorders. And I'm like, those are still things that are limiting people from being able to truly work out the way that we think you should work out.
Yeah.
And that program we went and toured a facility in Charlotte and we were like, we want to do this where we live in the Piedmont. And the girl was like, yes, like you absolutely need to. Because when you think CrossFit, you don't think of somebody in a wheelchair being able to do CrossFit. And I loved that at this gym, like that was their thing is anybody can do CrossFit. And I was like, literally anybody can. It just looks a little different. And to me, that was huge because a lot of times we think like I thought I am not a fast runner. I'm not tall and slim and like I had to learn there's still a space for me in that running world. And that should be pretty much how it is for everything. There should still be a space for everybody. It just might look a little different.
Cool. I love that because it's including everyone, right? And we need to move, right? I got to get that energy moving and all of that. So you are a veteran. So can you share with us your military experience and how that influenced your approach to resilience and growth?
Yeah. So my military time was unfortunately cut very short. I wanted to do 20 years and got to do 3. And that was kind of where all of this started, right? Is I developed the heart problem in service, and they put the first pacemaker in while I was still in. And they told like it was terrifying, right? You're 18, 19 years old, and they tell you like you're not going to make it through the night because my heart just kept stopping. My resting heart rate was down to 28 beats per minute. And they were like, who do you need us to call because you're not going to make it through the night? I'm like, well, you're going to have to call my mom because like somebody's got to get my body from California back to North Carolina. And that was a lot to face as a teenager. And going through all of that, it really showed me like bad things can happen, but when it's not your time, it's not your time. And you've got to do more. And that was the thing is my daughter, like, she's 16, so everything's sassy, but she always jokes like mom will never die. God doesn't want her yet. Like she's still got too much to do and she's been begged. Because I'm like, I've been given this opportunity where I know of many other people who have had the same heart condition and they have not lived through it. And I'm like, this gives me an opportunity to talk about heart disease and mental health and all of these different things. So while in the moment it was very traumatic,
Yeah.
I feel like it really shaped me to be more resilient, and I did struggle at first. Like, I didn't have a plan B because plan A was 20 years military, become an ROTC instructor, and retire by the time I'm 60 with 2 retirements. Like, that's a great plan.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that plan B and I felt so lost. I was so depressed. Like I was suicidal for a while. Like it was so much to have that world come crashing down. But then I had this like glimmering light of like the people that I went through training with would reach out, I'm thinking about you. And then, for a little while, they kind of didn't know what to do with me. And so, they stuck me behind a desk and they're like, well, let's keep you going until we know what to do next. The community in the military is just, it's so amazing. Like, no matter where you go, that's your new brother or sister.
Yeah.
And they always have your back, which has been so great. And I know some people unfortunately don't have that experience, but I was very lucky. The guys that I was stationed with were all old enough to be my dad, and they immediately took me under their wing. Like they were good people. And when I was stationed in California, it was the same thing. Like I remember the sergeant that was there in the hospital with me, like his daughter was about my age, and he instantly was like Papa Bear mode. And it was so nice to have all of these people in my life. Like I had never met them before, and suddenly this is my new family. And it's really pushed me to just be like, and that's why my daughter jokes like today she had a doctor's appointment, and the doctor was like, who lives in the home with you? And she was like, well, full time, mom and dad, part time, whoever needs it, because I still want it to be that safe space. And so, like, a friend of ours was just having a hard time and was waiting on his new apartment. And I'm like, well, I got a spare bedroom. And so that community has continued because I'm like, I never want anybody to feel alone. And I want them to know that there truly is that support out there.
Yeah, that's definitely important. Some folks y- were, especially now, are in that transitional period and support is so important. I too had an I would say relatively a positive experience when I served in the Air Force, and I still talk to folks till this very day. I have a friend that I've known since I'm telling my age here. Since we've been friends for, gosh, since 91. Yeah, I'm probably going to be having several of my fellow Air Force folks that I served with on the podcast and interviewing them because many of them are on their spiritual journeys. So yeah, I mean, it really truly is. It's like a family, and you could not talk for so many years and then just pick it right back up. And it really truly is it's like a family. And I know some folks don't have that experience, but I'm grateful that I had that experience, and I'm grateful you've had that experience.
Yeah. And like you said, like I still the girl that slept on the top bunk, like her and I are still friends on Facebook.
Oh,
We check in with each other. I mean, that was, now I'm going to kind of age myself. That was 2000. And so it was, building those relationships it's been so nice. And the thing is like they're all over the world, but we all keep in touch.
yes, it is. It's like a brotherhood, sisterhood, just family, and I'm definitely grateful for the experience. That's for sure. Where were you stationed in California, if I may ask?
So I was at Fort Wainini when I went through my training. I trained actually with the Seabees down there.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Super cool. So, are there any lessons from your service that unexpectedly helped you on your healing journey?
I think that almost dying,
Right.
like like when you're literally faced with life or death so early on and you overcome that, like that was really like
Yeah.
I I learned very quickly, like if I can get through this, I can get through anything. There were days where I'm like, can I get through anything? But so far I have, right? Like
You sure have.
when they came back and said, you broke your pacemaker wire, we need to do a second surgery. And this isn't even a year in. It was
Mhm.
like, okay, we're doing this again. And then it was, hey, the battery died. We're doing this again. And then 21, in the midst of COVID, I broke another wire. And with that wire, um, it was like shorting out.
Yeah.
And I could not figure out why my chest was hurting so bad. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm catching COVID. Nope, I was just getting electrocuted
Oh my
like
goodness.
20, 24 hours a day.
So can I ask you what have you been, what's the heart condition that you've been diagnosed with?
So I have bradycardia and sync sinus syncope. So my resting heart rate is very low. And without the Brady response, I will just pass out. So thankfully, the pacemaker stops all those things from happening.
Yeah.
But it's very common in young athletic people, which is crazy because, right, like we're like, oh, we need to be fit and healthy. But if you get too fit and healthy, then you have this condition.
Right. Right.
But going through all of those different surgeries and dealing with all those different things, I learned very quickly, like, I'm just going to overcome. I'm just going to overcome. And I consistently have. And I'm grateful I have learned that adapt and overcome no matter what.
That's amazing. And so you have a book. So tell us a little bit about your book.
Yeah.
And
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the book is called Fat to Fit: My Health Journey. When I initially wrote the title, I said my weight loss journey, and then I put a big X through that because it wasn't about my weight loss anymore. It was about healing completely. Like getting physically fit was great, but getting mentally fit was great, and finding a spiritual connection and an emotional connection, it was so many different pieces. And when I wrote the book, I wrote it like I was explaining the journey to somebody. And it's crazy because when I'm doing this, like in my mind, I'm wanting it to come out a certain way. And I've been so happy when I've gotten people that have come back to me that have read it so far. And they're like, I felt like we were just having a conversation as I read the book. And I was like, that's what I was going for. Because I wanted it to be real and raw, and I wanted people to know that they're not alone, and I wanted them to know the challenges, right? Because we always talk about like the iceberg, and you see the top of the iceberg and how pretty it looks, and everything looks amazing up here. We don't talk about everything under the water and the struggles you have to get through to get there. One of the things I talked about in the book was like Simone Biles. It was so inspiring to me a couple years ago when she was at the Olympics and said, I need to take a break from my mental health. And I was like, yes, because all we see is this well put together, athletic, amazing, at the top of her game, at the top of her field woman. Nobody thinks about what's going on and boiling underneath the surface, like the pressure she's under, what she's going through. And so it really inspired me to talk about all of those struggles. I wanted people to see the whole situation. And so in the book, I talk about everything. I talk about the struggles of being perimenopausal and the hormones, the ones that they talk about that is always the woman's issue. I'm like, well, this time they actually are.
Yes, I can
And,
relate.
struggling through nutrition and what exercises to do. And so everything in the book is very real, and it's my personal what I found worked for me, and I make sure to say that. I'm not a professional trainer, I'm not a nutritionist. This is what I just found, and like, take it or leave it, but here are the tidbits I found that worked. What do you need to do that works for you? And that was the big part of it, is everybody is different. Like, I am 5 foot nothing. What I thought I needed to look like is not what I'm going to look like. I'm not a 5'11" model. It's never going to happen. But how do I need to look healthy for me? How do I need to feel healthy? One of the big things was realizing, when you look at the cover of my book, you see my starting picture. And to me, like, I'm so proud of her and her decision to take the first step on the journey. And that's what I walk everybody through, is the journey that I've been on so far.
That's
And then,
amazing. And so if somebody somebody wants to read your book, how would they go about getting that? Is it on your website?
so it's on my website, and you can also find it on Amazon. If you go directly to the Amazon page, it's just Fat to Fit, my health journey. It comes up pretty quickly because apparently it's trending right now.
Great. Well,
So
that's
I'm like, hey,
good.
yeah, I'm like, hey, look, I was like, maybe one day I'll be a famous author.
Amazing. Well, I'm showing that everyone your website here at the bottom of the screen, and it's fluff2tough.com.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So it's funny because I wrote the book, right? And then I found out that Fluff to Tough was taken as a website, or I'm sorry, that Fat to Fit was taken. I said, well, one of my favorite t-shirts that I wear to work out, it's a picture of Jigglypuff and Jigglytuff. And so
Uh,
that's where the Fluff to Tough came in.
Oh, that's so cute. I love that. So, you have been through some stuff, girl. So, what advice would you give to someone facing a major health challenge?
Just don't give up. I know it's so much easier said than done, right? Like, everybody's like, oh, you'll make it through. And you hear all these things, but trying not to give up on yourself is the biggest part, and modifying your life. Like, I can't say that the drug that they use for me is going to make everybody better, right? And I can't say that my journey is going to be the same as everybody else's, but you might be able to do little things to modify, and it doesn't all have to look the same as long as you're doing what you can do for you. And there have been people I've known that, there's this little old lady. I think she's 83 years old, and she's at all of the runs that I go to. I One day I say I caught up with her because I caught up with her. And I looked at her and I was like, I want to be like you when I grow up. And she's just so sweet and so powerful because age has not stopped her. And she also has a back injury. And the one time we were running together a little bit, and I was like, how do you just keep going? And she's like, I just put one foot in front of the other because one day I won't be able to. And I'm like, all right, that's what I'm gonna do.
Amen to that. So, how has sharing your journey? Because you told me that you've done like 4 podcasts already. So this is really
Mhm.
great because the spirit is calling us to get out there and talk, right? To have our voices heard, and so share our stories so that others are inspired and that they understand that they're not alone. And although your journey may look a little different than theirs, it's still kind of the same concept. Like, we still have that connection, that human connection when you face adversity. And so, how has sharing your journey changed how you see yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely helped my confidence like a lot when I started this. So it's funny. I was very lucky in high school. One of my teachers kind of forced us into public speaking, and I've always been confident to talk in front of people, but never about myself. It's usually like I'm teaching a subject or something like that. But this has really taken that confidence to another level because before I was really never worried about myself, especially in my full-time job. My job is to help others. And so this has kind of given me a chance to help myself, because then it's like I'm constantly manifesting it. Um, and it's funny because we joke now that, like, if you need something done, just ask Rita to manifest it and then it happens. Because it's just continued to boost that confidence, that self-esteem. And then I see it in people. I had a friend of mine that she said, I'm like halfway through your book, and she's like, I had no idea where you began this journey and how bad you were. She's like, and I'm just so inspired to keep through my journey. And when you see those little glimmers, it's like it's working. The desire to inspire people to moving themselves forward and empower themselves, like that has been the biggest thing to inspire me to keep going. And that's why, like I said, last week was surgery, and yesterday I like limped 3 miles, but I still did it because I'm like, I keep preaching to keep going. I got to keep going.
Yeah, that's amazing. What an amazing journey you've been on.
Thank you. It's some days it's amazing. Some days I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing to myself?
Well, just make sure that you take your time to honor yourself and to rest when you need to rest, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's all about action, right? Whatever that looks like. And you're right. I think it's so important we're out here speaking and talking about our journeys, because it does truly inspire others to get on their journey, right? Whether that is their health journey or their spiritual journey, whatever it may be. So I honor that, and I honor you for sharing that. And I'm so grateful that you came on to share your story. And so with that, do you have anything else that you would like to share with the audience as far as your journey, or any takeaways, any nuggets of wisdom along the way?
Just keep moving, keep believing in yourself. And I promise, although sometimes it might not seem like it, mental health is health. And it's just as important as your physical health. And that has been like a driving factor for me, is they're so connected, and just make sure you're taking care of yourself just as much mentally as you are physically.
I couldn't have said it any better. Absolutely, 100%. You have to advocate for yourself, and also for your health. Most
Oh yeah,
definitely.
yeah, especially women. I promise, hormones are not always the answer.
Yes, I'm telling you, the hormone situation it can be challenging. But I've found that when I'm eating better and I'm staying on track with that, I'm so much better. I kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, when I'm traveling across the country. I went to Florida, and I was in Florida I drove, from Portland to Florida. So, when you're on the road, it can be challenging to make good choices, but you just do the best that you can. I know it's kind of limited, but you just, you do the best you can, stay hydrated, and all of that. So I appreciate you, Rita. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for reaching out. I know that there's folks that are going to resonate with your story and resonate with the wisdom that you've shared today, and they'll be able to extrapolate whatever they can and apply it to their lives. That's what this whole podcast is about, is folks like yourself, real people out here doing the real work, and lived wisdom and experience, and sharing the tools that have gotten you this far. And I think that truly does guide us, and honor your path on. And I hope to have you on again, because I'd like to talk more about the whole veteran and VA thing, because I know I have a lot of followers that are veterans, and the whole process can be very, very challenging. I know that I personally have a, what is it called, that I've been waiting for like 5 years.
Oh yeah, your
Appeal.
appeal.
Yeah, I have an
Yeah.
appeal. And it's like, wait a minute, like all of it came from the accident, okay?
Hmm.
Like they paid for the surgery. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It's super frustrating. And I don't think many folks understand that, when you're in the military, like you have a commitment. And if things happen to you, they also have a commitment to make sure that, you're compensated for that. So anything that you want to say about that, just kind of off the cuff?
Yeah. So we could literally probably do a whole podcast series,
I know. I so know.
but I always encourage veterans, like, go talk to a veteran service officer,
Yeah.
because there's so much out there for you that you probably don't realize. Like, there's accessibility to medical care and compensation, your education benefits, home loans, little things. Like, your veteran service officer should be able to help you write a resume, because that was one of my biggest challenges for some of my veterans. They'd be like, well, I was a tank driver in the Marine Corps. And I'm like, okay, so you were a heavy equipment operator. But like, that whole process, those VSOs are paid with your tax dollars to support you through your transition. Go utilize it. You don't need to talk to an attorney, because you already paid for a VSO when you paid your property tax.
Yeah.
Go use that service and let them help you, because our job is to navigate that whole process.
And then what I wanted to ask you, what is the DAP? There's a DAP. Is it called DAP? DAP?
Are you talking about the TAP program?
No, it's called, I think it's DAP. It's DAP, disabled. Maybe I'm wrong.
Disabled American Paralyzed Veterans, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So those are so there's many organizations
Right.
that have VFOs. So American Legion, the VFW. In North Carolina, we have NCDVMA. There's a national level. So all of those different organizations all have VSOs, and they're all part of that program.
And so if somebody wanted to find a veteran assistant, how would they go about doing that? Get in touch with the VA, or is there?
No. So if you just Google OGC VSO, it brings up a list.
Okay.
And you can put in that you're looking for somebody in a certain area, and it will give you all of your surrounding VSOs.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And maybe what we'll do is have you back on to maybe talk about how the process is of if someone wanted to file for a claim or whatever it may be. That would probably be very helpful, I think, to some of the veterans that are out there that are maybe struggling with that.
Yeah.
And need someone to advocate for their disability. Well, sister, thank you so much for your service. I appreciate it. And I honor you, and I honor your path. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your journey with the listeners. I
Thank you.
truly appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do this. This has been life-changing for me, and I'm hoping it will be life-changing for others.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think you're right. People can, I didn't know that. There's opportunities for people to have revelations about certain things, right? I mean, all the time. Like I always say, if you're not learning something every day, like you have to get out there and learn something every day, because there's just so much out there, and that people don't really know about.
Yeah.
The support and all that. So thank you so much for joining us today, Rita.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. All right. That's Harness the Shift. Thank you so much for joining us today. And until next time, keep harnessing the shift.
Thank you for dialing in and listening to Harness the Shift podcast. I'm Jay, your host. I spent 23 years in clinical research and have now transitioned into guiding leaders, creators, and change makers through coaching and consulting. I also am a brand partner with LifeWave, and more information about the research and this work is available in the Central Hub link in my bio. During these conversations, my guests share how you can connect with them. All their details are in the podcast description. I'd love your help growing this podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with anyone who may benefit. And make sure to subscribe and follow on YouTube, Spotify, and soon Apple Podcasts under Harness the Shift. You can also stay connected with me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at Harness the Shift with Jay, and follow my long-form writings on LinkedIn and Substack at Harness the Shift with Jay. The podcast has its own Instagram channel, which is Harness the Shift Podcast. Everything I mention, coaching, retreats, guest info, and offerings is centralized in the central hub, Harness the Shift with Jay. Stay rooted in the light. We're all aligned by design, and together we're harnessing the shift.